Hello guys, how are you? Today's lesson will be about classification of living organisms and scientists' role in classification of living organisms. Scientists tried for many years to classify living organisms into different groups, and they began with Aristotle, the Greek philosopher, who developed the first classification system, into which he divided all the living organisms into two main groups. Any non-motile living organism, he considered it as a plant, and he classified plants according to size into herbs, shrubs, and trees, and any motile living organism he considered it as an animal, and animals were grouped by their habitat into animals which live in the air, water, or land, according to the external features or morphology, and according to the presence of blood into red-blooded animals and bloodless animals like insects. Second scientist is Carlos Linnaeus, who developed the two-kingdom classification system, into which he classified the living organisms into kingdom plant and kingdom animalia or animals. The members of kingdom plant were able to make their own food by themselves. They also have cell wall surrounding their cell, and they can't move, so they are called sedentary living organisms. Sedentary here means can't move. The second group, which is animal kingdom, they can't make their own food by themselves, or they are heterotrophic organisms. Heterotrophic means that they can't make their own food. They have no cell wall surrounding their cell, and they are motile living organisms or can move. In 1968, the model classification system was established by Robert Whittaker, where he classified the living organisms into five kingdoms: Kingdom Monera, Kingdom Protista, Kingdom Fungi, Planta, and Animalia. If you noticed here, you will find that kingdoms are arranged by complexity from the most primitive to most complex. The most primitive kingdom is Monera, and the most complex is Animalia. In this chapter, we will study each kingdom, showing its characteristics and its several divisions. So we will begin with Kingdom Monera. The members of Kingdom Monera are all unicellular organisms, which means they are composed only of one cell. These cells can be exist individually or solitary, or can be in aggregation or in colonies. Their cells are prokaryotic, which means they have no true nucleus, and their genetic material is suspended in cytoplasm without nuclear membrane, or they are not surrounded by a nuclear membrane. They have cell wall, which is devoid of cellulose or pectin. If you remember that cellulose is a polysaccharide found in the cell wall of plant cells, so they have cell wall which is devoid of cellulose or pectin. They lack membranous organelles like mitochondria and the chloroplast, which are exist inside our cells. So the kingdom Monera members have no mitochondria or chloroplast. There are two divisions inside the kingdom Monera. Division Archaeobacteria. Archaeo here mean ancient bacteria. The archaeobacteria live in a very harsh conditions like hot spring in a very high temperature. They can live also in a conditions with nearly no oxygen and conditions with a very salt environment. While the second group here is the eubacteria. Eubacteria. Eu here mean true bacteria, which live in all habitats, ocean, land, or air. Some of them are autotrophic organisms that can make their own food by themselves, and others are heterotrophic organisms. They can't make their own food by themselves. They reproduce asexually by binary fission with a type, which is a type of asexual reproduction. Cyanobacteria is an example for eubacterium, which live in all habitats. Cyanobacteria means blue-green algae. They are also named blue-green algae. They are named by this name because they appear green, but when they die, they appear bluish. Example for cyanobacteria is nostoc. So if I told you that classify nostoc, so nostoc is inside kingdom Monera, division eubacteria. The next kingdom is Protista. Protista. The members of kingdom Protista are mostly unicellular living organisms composed only of one cell, and some of them are multicellular living organisms. Their nucleus is eukaryotic nucleus, which means they have true nucleus inside which the genetic material present. They are different than plants and animals as they are not complex, and some of them have cell wall and plastic, so they gather between the animal and the plant characteristics. Protista can be divided into four phyla: phylum Protozoa, phylum Euglenophyta, phylum Chrysophyta, and phylum Pyrophyta. So phylum Protozoa, proto here means primitive and zoa means animal, so they are mostly primitive animals. They are free-living with some parasite species. They live individually or in colonies. All of them are unicellular organisms. All of them are unicellular organisms. Of course, they are eukaryotic organisms. They reproduce sexually and asexually. Phylum Protozoa includes four classes. We can differentiate between the four classes according to the way of movement. So the first class is Sarcodina, like amoeba. Amoeba moves by pseudopodia, which means false legs. Pseudo means false, and podia means legs. So amoeba moves by false legs, which are extensions from its body cell. The second class here is Celiophora. Celiophora. The members of class Celiophora move by cilia, and cilia here mean tiny hairs extended from the cell. The example for Celiophora is an organism called Paramecium. Paramecium and amoeba, both of them live in the fresh water. The next class is Flagellata. Flagellata here means organisms move by flagella, which hair-like structure. Trypanosoma is an example for the class Flagellata. Trypanosoma is a parasite living organism, which means that must live inside another living organism. It may be human or animal. Trypanosoma causes a disease called sleep sickness, and it transmitted through a type of flies called tsetse fly. Then the last class here is Sporozoa, and the members of Sporozoa have no mean of locomotion. They can't move. An example for the class Sporozoa is a Plasmodium. Plasmodium also is a parasite, causes a disease called malaria, and malaria is transmitted by a type of mosquitoes called Anopheles mosquito. The next phylum is Euglenophyta. Euglenophyta, they are unicellular organisms. They contain chloroplast and they can move, so they gather between animal and plant characteristics. So they put Euglena or Euglenophyta as a specific phylum. They move by flagella, and Euglena is an example for this phylum. Phylum Chrysophyta, they are called also diatoms. Diatoms are unicellular organisms. They have glass-like cell wall made up of silica. They have also an important role as a source of food for fish and other marine animals. The last phylum here is Pyrophyta. Pyrophyta are unicellular organisms, live in the seas and oceans. They contain red pigment besides their chlorophyll, so they are photosynthetic or autotrophic organism, can make their own food. They have two flagella, so they are called dinoflagellates. Dinoflagellates represent a larger group of this phylum. Because their red pigment, they are responsible for a unique phenomena happens in the ocean known as red tide. Thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed the video and I will wait for your questions